Framework that helps you understand how to approach different situations based on the complexity of the situation. It was developed by a guy named David Snowden and Mary Boone, and it's based on the idea that different problems require different solutions. Now, this may sound like it's super common sense, but our approach to solving for DEI isn't always in line with the adaptive nature of DE&I. This model has 4 domains: simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. We're not really even going to talk about chaotic because it's very hard to solve problems when things are chaotic. So let's talk about these in the order from simple to chaotic. All right. So in the simple domain, the relationship between cause and effect is clear, and there are well-established processes for dealing with a specific problem. So an example of a simple domain problem might be fixing your leaky faucet or learning how to make poached eggs. You know what the problem is, and you have a clear solution that, for instance, involves turning off the water, replacing the faulty part, and turning the water back on. Other examples might include making a cup of tea. So, you boil some water, you pour it over a tea bag or some loose leaf tea, you let it steep, you add milk and sugar if you want, stir, drink. Or filling up your car with gas. You pull into a gas or petrol station, you insert your credit card or you pay cash, you select the type of fuel you want, you pump the gas, and, remember to close the little, lid, collect your receipt, and you drive on. What's nice about simple problems is that they tend to have a very clear solution that may or may not be simple, right? So fixing a leaky faucet could be complicated, right? I mean, there might be more than 3 steps. You might have to go to the store many, many times, but the solution is really clear. The next one is the complicated domain. In this domain, the relationship between cause and effect is not as clear, but there's a process for finding a solution. So an example of a complicated domain might be in building a website. You know what the end goal is, but there are many steps involved in achieving it. And you might need to consult with a lot of different experts in areas such as design, coding, marketing to get it all done. Another example is fixing a car's engine. If you're me, you just take the car to the dealership or to a mechanic, but perhaps unlike me, you're somebody who wants to fix it. So it might, start with diagnosing the problem and either, finding the solution for it yourself, or likely you require the expertise of a mechanic, and you also need some specialized tools to solve engine trouble. Another example could be like creating a marketing campaign. So you need to understand the target audience, identify the best channels for reaching them, and creating a messaging strategy that is going to be impactful for that group. Often, an example of the complicated domain problem is launching a rocket, which I've always thought was a very hard thing to do, and it is a very hard thing to do. The next is complex. In this domain, the relationship between cause and effect is unclear, and there's no clear process for finding a solution that's going to work in all environments. This is often the domain for DEI practitioners. An example of a complex domain problem might be solving a mystery. You have clues, but you're not sure how they all fit together, and you might need to use trial and error to figure out what happened. It might be in developing a new product. There are many unknowns about market and consumer preferences, and it's going to take multiple iterations to arrive at something that's really successful. Just think about how many iterations of some of the apps that we use all of the time. They've taken, decades to be as user-friendly as they are, or as impactful as they are today. Fighting a pandemic, the interaction between the virus and the human behavior, and we've just lived through it, and the healthcare systems that are complex and also constantly evolving. It requires, adaptive and innovative solutions. And we saw a lot of that happen in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, where many of us were getting our booster shots, at college campuses or in big warehouse spaces belonging to large corporations that had space to do something. And, maybe 5 years ago, we never would have thought to be in some kind of a drive-through at a college campus getting our booster shots. But that is an example of an adaptive and innovative solution. Now, the fourth realm or domain is chaotic. This is where the situation is completely out of control and there's no clear way to respond. So, an example of a chaotic domain problem is dealing with a natural disaster such as a hurricane or flooding or forest fires. And the situation is often changing rapidly. You need to act quickly to protect yourself and others. Earlier, I said that one of the barriers or restrictions to DEI work is macroeconomic conditions. And this is an example of macroeconomic conditions that you cannot control. We don't know what's going to happen from moment to moment. And there's often no time for analyzing or planning. We need to take actions immediately, right? And so if you're working with a group of employees that are, in an area that has just been flooded, having them come to an unconscious bias training is not going to be what you're after, because their safety and survival is a hell of a lot more important than achieving the right metrics around training. With these 4 domains, I want to offer some examples and apply it to employee engagement specifically. Okay, the simple domain, right? Remember, at this first level, the relationship between cause and effect is clear, and there are best practices already been established, right? So in terms of employee engagement, activities in this domain might include providing regular and timely feedback to employees on their performance management, celebrating successes and recognizing employees who've gone above and beyond. So having a rewards program, setting clear expectations and goals for employees, and providing the resources they need to meet those goals. In the complicated domain, where we know that the relationship between cause and effect is not as clear, but there's still ways to find a solution, some activities might include conducting surveys or focus groups to gather employee feedback and using that feedback to inform engagement initiatives. It could look like providing training and development opportunities that align with employees' career aspirations and goals, and what they need to get promoted and do their job well. It could look like offering flexible work arrangements that accommodate employees' individual needs and preferences. Then there is the complex domain. In this domain, there's no clear process for finding a solution that's going to be the right fit for your organization. So what do employee engagement activities look like in this domain? They look like creating opportunities for employees to collaborate and share ideas through cross-functional projects or team building, action learning. Encouraging experimentation and innovation by giving employees the freedom to try new things and take some calculated risks. We know that there are a lot of tech companies, for instance, that offer employees 1 day a month to work on whatever they want to work on. And some of the biggest innovations in tech have come out of the 1 day a month where somebody is working on their passion project on company time. It can be cultivating a sense of purpose and shared values by connecting employees to the organization's mission, vision, and values. Many organizations are in this domain as it relates to DE&I, and it requires experimentation to advance equity and inclusion, and along the way, gathering data to make decisions.